Tobacco in many forms has been exchanged across cultural barriers, between friend and foe, and for millennia. But in the 20th century, one form of tobacco, cigarettes, would become the dominant form of consumption and cause an ongoing healthcare crisis. But what's actually inside a cigarette? It's a lot more than just tobacco.
Tobacco-growing farms in the United States declined from 512,000 in 1954 to 57,000 in 2002.
1.3 billion people, one-third of the world's adult population, smoke cigarettes. Tobacco use is rising in the developing world by 3.5% per year and falling slightly in the developed world. There are more Chinese smokers than citizens of the United States. In 2005, Philip Morris, the world's largest cigarette company, generated $4.6 billion in profits. Cigarettes, by far the most common form of tobacco consumption, are also the most deadly. Unlike most pipe and cigar smokers, cigarette smokers inhale intentionally, allowing toxins to penetrate deeper into the body.
There are different risks associated with different forms of smoking. Cigarette smoking is the one associated with the greatest risk, and that is the one that's associated mostly with high risks of lung cancer and mouth cancer and chronic lung disease.
But if cigarette smoking is so deadly, why is it so popular?
A cigarette is an elegant form of a drug delivery device, almost like a hypodermic syringe and needle. And the delivery that one wants out of a cigarette is nicotine.
Nicotine may be the addictive product, but other cigarette components that accompany it are actually more lethal. So what's inside a U.S. blended cigarette? Tobaccos, flue-cured, burley, and oriental, only make up about half the cigarette. The rest is known as add-ons. One add-on, reconstituted tobacco, is made from a mixture of stripped stems, offal, or tobacco dust, swept from the factory floor, and reclaim, cigarettes that have passed their prime and have been sent back to the factory. It all goes into a giant vat.
It's beat up. And as it's being beat up, it's constantly extracted, like a tea bag. Well, that means I removed all the chemicals, all the solubles, and then it's pooled into another vat. And this is a chemical reaction vat.
The resulting solution is known as the mother liquor.
So you have this mother liquor, which is an aqueous-based system, water-based system, in which now I can add a host of chemicals. Diammonium phosphate, urea, ammonium hydroxide, and these additives in the Recon are used to deal with nicotine manipulation. The others is thought to use as ameliorants. If you tried to smoke a cigarette without additives, it would be very harsh. How do I mellow that harshness out? How do I smooth it? Chocolate, butterfat, glycerol. Sounds a lot like things I buy in the grocery store, isn't it? Or foodstuffs. Well, they're actually added.
Once chemically reacted, the mother liquor solution is applied to paper made from the ground stems, offal, and reclaim. This paper is dried and shredded and is known as reconstituted tobacco, or Recon. It will make up 30% of the cigarette's contents. When it's smoked, the ammonia in the Recon will enhance the absorption of nicotine in the smoker's body.
And nicotine as it exists in the plant is sort of like a molecule with a ball and chain on it. And I want to free this molecule up by taking that ball and chain off. And now we start changing its shape, we call freebase nicotine. Freebasing nicotine is much the same as freebasing cocaine. Increases potency, increases delivery.
Expanded tobacco, a puff tobacco product that has been expanded with carbon dioxide, is also part of the blend to act as a filler. So, in a finished cigarette, 20% is expanded tobacco, stems, and reclaim, tobacco from returned cigarettes, and 30% is Recon. The other 50% is tobacco, which is also treated with sugars that mask the bitter taste of nicotine and enhance its absorption into a smoker's body. Tobacco, stems, reconstituted, reclaim, and expanded tobacco are mixed in a bulking bin the size of a bus. It's all cut to 1/28 of an inch slices called rag and pneumatically moved to the cigarette fabrication side of the plant. There, the rag will be rolled in paper, glued, joined with filters made from cellulose acetate, and packaged. This process occurs at a rate of roughly 20,000 cigarettes per minute, sometimes 24 hours a day. Long before offal, casings, and recon, cigarettes had humble origins. Their beginnings can be traced to Spain in the early 19th century and the Seville tobacco factory. Cigarettes were rolled from scrap tobacco, often the leftovers from cigars and snuff.
Much of the tobacco produced in Spain in its central monopoly factory was sold loose, and that the poorer people would literally roll it up.
In the 19th century, the cigarette's popularity took off with the invention of the first cigarette-making machine. James Buchanan Duke, known as Buck Duke, saw the future. In 1884, the Duke Company went into business with James Bonsack, the machine's inventor. And by the late 1880s, they were manufacturing 4 million cigarettes daily. Buck Duke was a risk-taker and a marketing whiz.
He inserted cigarette cards in the packs with pictures of actresses, which he admitted were just there for prurient interest, or latterly baseball and football stars. And so he was the one who got cigarettes in front of the nation, and they responded. I mean, smoking rates absolutely shot through the roof.
After mechanization, the movies gave cigarettes their next big boost.
One direction cigarette advertising went, of course, was the Hollywood market. Ronald Reagan, as an example, had his image put on the back of Look and Life.
In 1950, around half of the adult population in the industrialized world smoked cigarettes. Medical professionals were beginning to make a statistical link between smoking and disease.
Health professionals were noticing that, gee, people who smoke seem to have a higher incidence of lung disease. As they got the science together, they were able to demonstrate conclusively that if you smoke, you have a higher incidence of cancer. That's where it all started.
Tobacco companies turned growing public concern to their advantage and introduced filter cigarettes in the early 1950s, boosting sales, but doing little for public health.
In fact, when you used the lower nicotine or low tar, you actually smoked more. Cancer rates didn't change. Lung disease rates didn't change.
Since the first Surgeon General's report on smoking in 1964, there have been 29 reports that have linked smoking to cancer, heart disease, chronic lung diseases like emphysema and bronchitis, and infections that increase the risk of influenza and tuberculosis. It's the burning process that increases the toxicity of the chemicals in cigarettes.
When you burn any organic material, like tobacco, you generate a number of substances that potentially damage DNA. These are classically talked about as tar. Two main classes of cancer-causing chemicals are the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons and the nitrosamines. Both of those classes of drugs can damage DNA in such a way that it alters the control of cell growth. And then when you see uncontrolled cell growth, you then see cancers develop.
In all, more than 4,000 chemicals enter the lungs when a smoker inhales. Among them, acetone, formaldehyde, pesticides, and heavy metals, arsenic, cadmium, and chromium, extracted from the soil by the tobacco plant. The body's defense systems that function when we eat are bypassed when we draw smoke into our lungs.
Whatever's burned in the cigarette, and it goes directly into the system. And that toxins that come out of it, or poisons, go directly to any access organ, heart, brain,